we as humans, we evolved to because our predators exactly our predators would always kick soccer balls at us in the African savannah, and so that's why we grew to become good runners and have the legs that we do, so that we can kick balls back. And that's how soccer was created.
It checks out. Yeah,
yeah,
you do see elephants in the circus juggling balls.
How do they know how to play soccer? Exactly, like because they learned from us. We grew up together. Evolutionarily speaking.
Totally nothing torture related.
No, it has nothing to do with abusing animal rights and like making them work in unsafe conditions. No, nothing like that. No, they learned how to kick it because we needed to play somebody.
And animal
for
instincts.
The World Cup. Yeah, animal instincts. Yeah.
Greetings and fist bumps. This is the Raised Eyebrow Podcast, where we discuss how people just peopling can make it weird to be a person sometimes. But somebody's got to do it, and we are your hosts, Kojo, Alex, and Mike. In this episode, we discuss how football, or is it soccer, has taken over the world. Not in an alien invasion kind of way, but in the everywhere you turn, every city has their own team kind of way. And with the World Cup just around the corner, we ponder just how big this tournament really is, and how big this sport is becoming, and has been. Because it's more than kicking a ball around. It's about watching people from your country, city, and background kick a ball around. All right, let's kick things off, shall we? All right, gentlemen, so is it soccer or football?
It is football.
I agree.
Yeah, it's football, yeah. But being in Canada, I tend to catch myself saying soccer. Sometimes.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those the switch code where, like, you know, when you're with people who call it soccer, you say soccer, and around football people.
But it's more than just soccer or football, because what was that list you gave me? You had a list of this stuff. Mike.
So Italians call it calcio, Portuguese call it futbol. So it's obviously taken from the British football. There is ballon in French.
There's probably more.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure there's more.
Like those are just the Latin languages, right? So
Exactly.
I mean, it makes sense, you know, the name itself is like a foot.
Yeah. Playing with your foot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It makes total sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Not like American football where you just kick it like 1/10 of the game. Let's just call that the game. What? How?
Well, how often do you kick the ball? Well, once every 4 downs. But
so is it handball?
Why?
Is it oval ball? Like what? No, football.
Oval ball.
All right.
Yeah. I think Americans are really good at, like, you know, making up terms and making sure everyone agrees with it. Even if you like that.
Yeah, they'll force
That's one way of putting it, yeah.
Football, like American football is football, and it's not handball.
This is how it is now.
Yeah. It's just
take it or leave it.
So why do you guys think football, for the purposes of the show, we'll go with football. Why do you think it's so popular around the world?
Personally, for me, I think it's one of the few sports that, you know, you don't need much. You can pretty much, you know, make a ball out of anything and kick it.
Yes, sir.
Foot.
It's poverty friendly, right?
Yeah.
It's, in most parts of the world, it's considered like a lower middle class to poverty level sport as far as socioeconomic classes are concerned, right? Especially historically.
Yeah.
I was watching this one thing. I can't remember who said this, so quoting somebody. It was a coach for a major football club, and he was saying, because he was asked the question, like, why do so many players come from you know, like lower class or lower middle class backgrounds? And he's like, because they're fighting for something. Like, this is the only way out for them. Even if you look at Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo,
Maradona.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not going to get into who's better debate. Like, these are great players, but they all come from very tough backgrounds. Like, and that was the only way out for them.
Yep.
And a lot of football players, a lot of athletes, period, come from these backgrounds.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if somebody is in a middle class or an upper middle class, they have options, and they play those options, right? Like you go to university, you get a degree, you have a career. Oh, it's my soccer's just my thing, but I have a backup plan because I'm also an engineer. It's like, yeah, because you could afford that.
You got options,
But
and parents are more
with,
likely to support that path because they know that the odds of making it as a football player, or an athlete are minuscule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's true. And I also find it is also an escape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Because, in countries where you're always hungry and getting beat up, like.
Yeah.
As one does in countries.
But in a way, it's like an escape where you find some commonality around with your friends, and then you go enjoy a ball of soccer when there's nothing else for you to do.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
And that reminds me of Alex. You and I have one of our favorite books is How Soccer Explains the World by Franklin Foer. And it's this journalist, talented dude. Read the book, highly recommend it. He goes on like this investigative journey of globalization and how it affects communities in the soccer world. And so what he finds is that every community in the world, the fandom of the team informs the team. It's an outlet for the local community to express themselves through that team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what I always love about supporter groups, when they, like, the references that they have are to actual team. Like here in Canada, we have it's like more of like a tier 2 league, the Canadian Premier League, because we also have the MLS. And our club here in Toronto is the York United. And the mascot for the supporters group there is a raccoon, which is also the mascot for Toronto, because there's a lot of raccoons here.
Nice.
But it's like only in Toronto would you have a raccoon as this right on the picture of the supporters logo.
Right.
Yeah.
It's on brand.
Totally on brand. Yeah.
In Ghana, we have two rivals. So there's the Hearts, and then the Porcupine.
Okay.
Interesting.
The Hearts apparently was introduced by the British, and the Porcupine, which is pretty much like the Ashanti people, which is they have a term which is, if you kill 1,000, 1,000 will come. And you know how the porcupine has needles, so they're very fierce and like very aggressive. So in a way, it's kind of like the British and the natives.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's the same local people playing each other.
Yeah, is there like a derby between the two? Like a rival? Like, do they play each other? Like, is there like a local rivalry that they have between each other where that kind of comes?
Oh yeah. It's a local. So the Hearts are the people from the coast, and then the Porcupine are from the Midland.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of like there's this one great YouTube series called Derby Days, and the host of the show, he goes to like popular derbies in cities like.
Well, you got to explain what derby means first.
Oh yeah, sorry. And so just for the sake of the listener, so what a derby is, it's actually spelled Derby, but it's pronounced Derby. It's this local rivalry between two clubs. So you would have say like in Madrid, you would have Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid. That's a local derby where you have these two clubs kind of go at it. In the case of Rome, you have Lazio and Roma. In Milan, you have AC Milan and Inter Milan. I can go on and on. There are many of them. But some of these are like really historic games that everybody looks forward to them in the calendar. And you have this is when the fans really come out. This is when the passion of the club like really kind of comes to play. And that's why I was asking, like, yeah. And there's this great YouTube channel called YouTube series called Derby Days, where he goes on game day or right before game day, kind of interviews people from both sides. What is this derby? What does it mean to you? The kind of cultural elements of it. And then eventually you go to the game and you kind of see like that real fandom just like at play.
It gets intense too. That's where the hooliganism, hard word to say. Say it 3 times fast. That's where it comes from, right? That's the history of it. You have like what they call firms. It's basically like local gangs, And so this is actually in that
Right.
book that we were referencing, how this hooliganism culture comes from like the angry young man phenomenon, where you don't see that. Like it's a very like modern phenomenon. Angry young men, they need an outlet to express their rage and
Mm-hmm.
the testosterone overload. Whereas in history, you had war, or you had other rites of passage that we don't have in the modern world necessarily. So the local football team took the place of war, right? So in certain parts of the world, especially parts where circumstances politically are messed up, like in the Balkans, there is a rivalry between Red Star and Partizan. This is in Serbia, and it's literally two gangs going at it. It's insane. In Scotland, you have Celtic versus Rangers. That's a political situation. It's Catholics versus Protestants who support their respective clubs, and obviously the hardcore supporters get violent. They've had riots. It's arguably dying down in modern days, but every now and then something will happen where some young kid gets killed or something. And when that derby game comes along a couple times a year, there's crazy tension where local police has to, they're all at the game, so criminals go crazy during those games. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I find it very interesting how the game changes shape by it's like the fans in a way change what the game is supposed to be based on whatever is going on in their surroundings.
100%.
Because apparently there's some fans who don't really care about soccer to the point where if you're a soccer lover, you love watching the game. The game is the thing that you love. But they would not even watch any other team except their team. Like if their team is playing somebody else, that's when they watch. But if it's a different soccer game, they don't care about
100%.
it.
Yeah, I'm that way with the team that I follow. You'd be watching the opponent and be like, when did they get this guy? I don't remember this. You only see that one club twice a year. That's it. It's the only time. Yeah, you just watch your club. You don't care about anybody else.
Yeah.
As long as everybody else is losing and you're
fan.
winning, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many examples of that. So in Turkey, a lot of government tension. And so when they go to their games, it's, again, angry young man phenomenon, but there's a lot of women too. They use it as an excuse to just release their frustration with the government. So their economic situations, whatever it may be. Going back to Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid in Madrid, obviously. That's also political. So Real Madrid was Franco's team back in fascist Spain. And so they got all the resources, all the influence. They were the powerful team. And so the people that felt suppressed, the working class folks, people who identified against Franco, they went with Atletico Madrid. And so that became, a form of an expression of who they are. It became part of people's identity. There's other examples. This one's fun. So as the resident Jew on the Raised Eyebrow podcast, I got to give this story here. So there are what we call Jewish teams. There's a few of them. Primarily, they're associated from before the war, but the ones nowadays, the main one is Tottenham Hotspur in the British League, and the story there is, so there's this word, I'm going to say it. It's a little controversial, but I got to do it. It's for educational purposes, folks.
Don't get us canceled.
Don't get us canceled.
Yeah.
It's for context, and also
just
I
cover
identify,
your ears. Yeah.
Cover your ears if you're easily offended.
Yeah.
But also
Ear
I
muffs.
identify ethnically and culturally as Jewish, even though I don't observe, so I can say it. So they use a slur against fans of Tottenham. And the reason they use it is because there was a big Jewish population outside the stadium where Tottenham play. So they used a term called yids or yiddos, which is the word stems from the word Yiddish, which is a language that is pretty much extinct now. Like my grandparents spoke it when I was a kid, but it's like a form of Judeo-German. and Jewish immigrants spoke it in England, right, and throughout Europe. Anyway, so fans a lot of soccer fandom is like mental games, so they would chant against Tottenham fans, like "burn the Jews, off to the gas chamber," like crazy stuff like that, just mind blowing. So as a form of protest, much like African Americans who adopted the N-word as their own word, Tottenham fans said, okay, we can't compete with your insults, so we're going to call ourselves the Yid Army and the Yids. So that became part of their identity. And it's been like that for decades up until recently, where, it's controversial because most of the Jews that lived in that area, they moved out. And so you're just as likely to have Jewish fans root for other teams, like in Manchester or in other parts of London. But internationally, Jews identified Tottenham as the Jewish team, right? And it's confusing because, like, on one hand, it's like, cool, like you're supporting us, but also you're not Jewish. So it's, personally, I don't have a problem with it. I find it kind of interesting. Maybe, someone who's wiser than me can convince me otherwise. But, and then, so there's another team like this in the Netherlands. So there is a team called Ajax, who is a Amsterdam-based team. They had a history of Jewish players and coaches. Johan Cruyff, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, legendary player. He married an Israeli girl. And so the fans this was also post-World War, where Amsterdam was very liberal, and they felt a lot of guilt over their contribution to sending Jews, transporting them to Germany and Poland and so on. And so the local team adopted, like, the opposite of anti-Semite is philo-Semite. So they were very philo-Semitic, and they adopted their love of all things Jewish, even though there's like a few thousand Jews in Amsterdam. And so they even started painting the Star of David on them. They started waving Israeli flags, even though they have nothing in common with anything Jewish. Super interesting stuff. And again, like, Israeli people were like, okay, like, I guess we're flattered, but are we though? So it became a point of controversy around the world, right? But that's one example of how just fandom can get crazy in whatever circumstances that, rival teams try to egg you on. It's an extension of the culture, of the local culture.
Yeah. Like, one thing that, like, just going back to one earlier point that was mentioned, was kind of how it's like a reflection of the community. There's this one team called FC St. Pauli. They're in Hamburg, Germany, and they're in the second tier division, and they see themselves as being like a very working class kind of team, and they embody that. Like, the fans actually came in and built the stadium. It wasn't built. It's not like this big massive stadium. It's a fan built stadium, and the fans don't want to compete in the big leagues. They don't want to be competing for all these big European trophies. One year they got promoted and they didn't like it. So they wanted to lose. So they go back down to the lower division.
That's crazy.
They just want to stay down.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's like, to them, it's about the culture. It's about the community. It's about that struggle that, like, it's kind of like in this case, like, football is like a metaphor. The struggle that takes place on the field is a metaphor for the struggle that takes place in life. And they kind of see that and want to relate with it. And they want that community, and they don't want to get caught up in, like, oh, we have to sign this big name player so that we can compete in the Champions League or Europa. Like, they don't want to get caught up in that. They just want to, just this hard Scrabble football in the second, third division. They're cool with it. And that's, I have a lot of respect for that. Yeah, FC St. Pauli.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that too.
I actually really salute that, because in a way, sometimes you notice how people get bought and it changes the dynamic of the team. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that's definitely affecting the economics of soccer nowadays, right? Like, there's 5 main leagues. England dominates it, but it's whoever has the big pockets wins. But the game's bigger than that, right? It's the local expression.
Yeah. And on that same topic, you see how America is now dominating. Like, they're pushing, like, they're now becoming well-known players, and in a way, kind of as a European, like, invented sport where they go with the name football, and I mean,
Yeah.
Calcio.
it's like we call it football and Americans call it soccer, and they're trying to change the name, and now you're trying to dominate the game because you guys can buy whoever you want on your team.
Yeah.
So what got you into soccer?
Football? I can go first on this one. So I'm an immigrant. I moved to Canada from Israel. I have Romanian, Israeli parents. So the culture there is very, you got a mix of Middle Eastern and European. And so the most popular team sports are football and basketball. And when I moved to, first I moved to Montreal, then I moved to Toronto, and I sort of carried that over, and those are my favorite sports. So I played with the kids who played those sports at recess. So every recess, we're in the yard playing those two sports. And funny enough, I'm in my mid-30s now, and those are still my favorite team sports. So it's funny how the older we get, sometimes we hold on to our first loves, our first passions, right? And then also it was all over TV, all over, at least when I'd visit family in Israel. In Canada, I remember it was hard to watch soccer, football. I keep going back between the names. It was on like Sunday morning, Saturday morning, like weird times, and I sort of fell out of touch with it for a couple of years until like maybe my mid-20s. So there was a long period where I didn't watch it as much, but now I'm back into it, and basketball sort of took over my fandom. But yeah, so it's really just one of my first loves. What about you, Kojo?
Yeah. I'd like to brag on the idea that I'm the only Ghanaian male who is not a big soccer player.
I like it. You're not joining any hooligan clubs in Ghana?
No, like everyone.
Are you a porcupine or are you a heart? What?
None. But I mean, I enjoy watching the game, and I mean recently because of you, Alex, and then my neighbor, we do lots of like, TFC games and stuff, and I have actually developed an interest in watching the game than I'd ever
You appreciate it
when I was growing up. I appreciate it even much better now, and I think it's a difference. There's a difference between watching soccer on TV and actually watching soccer on the field. Like the energy, the people, like the cheering, like there's it's a whole new world. Like I remember like the last game we watched, which is pretty much when the pandemic was being like
growing. It's coming in.
Getting down a bit. And so then now we can go to socializing.
Oh, so this is the end of the pandemic.
And yeah, like this recently,
like
this summer, like beginning of the summer. And then, like the game is like crowded and everyone's like cheering, and then the first goal goes in and you're high-fiving people, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I should probably be sanitizing my hands right now. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do it again. And then another goal goes in and you're hugging each other. And I'm like, why am I doing this? So, I mean, like I've developed interest in soccer, but I'm growing up, like, I mean, we had soccer balls, like my uncle is a coach, so we get free balls and stuff. So it's like,
yeah.
But I never really tennis was pretty much my game, not soccer.
I like it. How many Ghanaian tennis fans are there?
There are a few.
17. Interesting. So it's a popular sport in Ghana.
And again, I think this explains it. Like soccer is every person game. Like everyone plays soccer. Tennis, you need a tennis racket. You need a specific tennis shoe. You need the tennis court.
That's why I didn't play hockey when I was an immigrant. Hockey's too expensive. My parents were like, "Nope, here's a ball. Bounce it or kick it. You pick."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like we were lucky. I started playing tennis because I was like ball boy. So then, you get
exposure.
Shuffled into it. Yeah.
Cool.
How about you, Alex?
So for me, It was mainly growing up. I was never really into soccer. I played it with my friends just at like recess or whatever, but I was never really like into it. Um, but my brother-in-law got into soccer, and I work, in Toronto, and so near where the field is here, and he basically talked me into getting season tickets, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I didn't really think much about it, and then over time, I just kind of got more and more into it. It's like just being a season ticket holder, you just instinctively know where your seats are now, and you just like I can't watch the game from any other part of the field. Like, to me, that's the way that you're supposed to watch the game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just you become so invested in the team. Just I've been a season ticket holder for like 10 years, so just get so invested in the team, and
Damn.
yeah, just coming at it from different angle. But yeah, originally I wasn't, but now I am. Yeah.
So did you find yourself becoming like really curious and diving into the international leagues, or you kept it strictly local?
Yeah, I kind of gradually got into more international stuff. Around the time that I got, because I learned this with like hockey and baseball, was I bought like FIFA for Xbox, and that way you can kind of learn all the teams and players by playing the game, and you kind of learn how the game is played in order to actually, so you kind of know what you're talking about by playing the game yourself,
right?
Because you learn through your mistakes, and you kind of learn all the positions and the the plays and everything like that, like what a 4-3-3 is, for example. So right, but that's lingo, but you know that because you have to like set your lineups using a 4-3-3, and you know what a winger is, and you know what a striker is, yeah, because you have to like go draft one. So yeah, that's kind of that's what I do to like learn sports, is I buy the video game and then I play it, and then you learn the sport, you learn the players, you learn who's good, because you're trying to like, build your team, and you go and draft people and you figure out who's good.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you can go to a local sports bar and listen to some drunks talk.
Yeah. Yeah. But now, like me with like soccer, because like 10 years ago, not much of a fan. Today, like I watch like tier 2, tier 3 soccer just here local in Canada. Like these are like pro-am stuff, but I still follow it. I know the teams, like local teams, and just kind of like paying attention to even that level, right? And I kind of have gone to the point where I appreciate that more than the Champions League.
Wow.
I still follow it, but I kind of go in the opposite direction. Yeah.
That's cool.
So
especially
if we want to talk about like League One Ontario, we can have that conversation.
There you go.
See, this is the thing. I think a lot of people watch soccer because it's a good conversation thing.
Yeah.
Like I could know, like the three of us been friends for so long. I don't think, Alex, I know your birthday, which is like a really bad.
Okay.
Just check Facebook. You're all
okay.
Facebook.
Yeah, but we can sit and talk
Facebook,
about.
Yeah, it'll pop up.
Like,
don't worry.
When's Mike's birthday? Like, yeah, that's fine.
But we can sit and talk about everything, but nothing about what's your mom's name, your favorite color.
It's violet.
If I have a favorite color.
Like I think as guys, it's like
guys don't get into that
thing that guys do.
Yeah.
Where we would talk about politics.
Like I was friends with Mike for like 3 years before I knew he was Jewish. Just like
I don't talk about it.
Never. Yeah, like okay, it's like, oh, I'm Jewish. I was born in Israel. Like, really? I didn't know that.
Since when? I didn't even realize Alex was white. No, I'm joking. I knew that one right away.
Because we have more important things to talk about, like
like soccer.
Like who's your pick for the World Cup?
the grassroots local teams.
Yeah, like that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So if there's any like women listen to this podcast, that's what guys' relationships are like. We're more concerned about who your favorite sports teams are. We don't care for your birthday.
It always breaks awkward silence if you meet a new dude. You're just sitting there,
Yeah.
Catch the local sports game, the local team's game. Just throwing a sport. No, I follow this. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
most shallow conversations. But like if they're a real fan and you're a real fan, then okay, we have common ground. we can kill this party that we don't want to be at for the next 2 hours. Like kill time, not kill the party.
It's just such a unifying. It breaks racial barriers. Like it's like you enter a bar and it's like full with like crazy skinheads or like some crazy people.
What kind of bars do you go to?
Jeez. Living on the edge.
You have nothing in common with the people at the bar, and there's a soccer game going on, and you guys are all like fans.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Like when a goal's scored, like everybody high fives each other in your vicinity,
buying free drinks and stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So one thing you do is like you live in a city, you kind of keep up on like the local sports team. So because it's a good icebreaker if you're a guy. One guy was wearing like a Blue Jays cap, so I was like, hey, like how do you think the Blue Jays are doing this year? Do you think they're gonna make the playoffs? And he's like, oh, I don't really follow baseball. He's wearing a Blue Jays cap. Like, why are you? Just have the hat.
You're repping the Blue Jays, though.
That is so mean.
That's a bandwagon fan there. Listen to our episode on bandwagon fans.
Yeah.
But I see myself in it because my brother plays soccer, like really big soccer. He coaches and all that, and we exchange things. So I'm wearing some of his Philly jerseys, and someone asked me like, "Oh, what team do you play in Philly?" And I'm like, and I'm actually wearing a t-shirt, a jersey.
It's my bro's shirt. Yeah. That's interesting though. That's it goes back to like repping your town, repping your city. You're right.
Right.
Fashion trends, the culture, right? The team, the sport influencing the culture, right? Like how many women are baseball experts, but they'll rock a nice Blue Jays jersey,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, I know a few women who are big baseball fans.
Good for you, Alex.
No more than I do, yeah. That's true. Yeah.
Have you guys heard of the Casuals?
The Casuals.
Yeah.
I want to say yes.
So it's a European culture where it's part of like the fandom, like, style, culture, whatever thing. I mean, I'd like to learn more about it. So maybe after this podcast, I'll go and read more about it. But it has to do with the way people dress to games. So a lot of them would wear like, high end like clothing that you can't get in, Europe. So it'd be like Adidas, like really high end shoes,
Mm-hmm.
And then they would go to these games, and basically like just flex on people in a way.
I bet the teams that are like Chelsea is supposed to be like their fans are supposed to be the bougie fans, right? Like the high end. It's in the high end part of London,
right?
I bet that like they're known for being the, attracting those fans that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Right.
And apparently, a lot of them are also very aggressive.
Really, the Casuals? Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And are they like fans of the game, or they just kind of go there to do a fashion show?
Oh yeah.
You can't afford this sneaker.
Yeah,
I know. It kind of reminded me of even what we do here in America with rappers wearing jerseys and flexing and all that kind of stuff. Interesting.
Yeah,
that's true. Okay, so I guess we can kind of sort of segue over to the World Cup itself.
Mm-hmm.
So how popular is the World Cup? So according to Statista, which is a stats, you probably got that from the name, which is a stats website. They take analytics on stuff, readings on things.
Oh.
So the 2000, who knew from the name? They should really get on their branding.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2016 Rio Summer Olympics had an audience of 3.6 billion people.
A lot of people.
The 2018 World Cup drew an audience of 3.57 billion people. So that's just one sport. World Cup is equal or equivalent to the Summer Olympics prior, which that Summer Olympics also includes a soccer tournament in it.
Damn.
So it is big. It is as big as the Olympics.
So pretty much
so
anyone
it
who
just
owns a
kinda-
TV in the world caught a game or two.
It pretty much, yeah. So you are talking about like these are the best players in the world, and even not all of them are there because not every club made it. Yeah, sorry, Italy.
Ooh.
That's all right. I don't know any Italian, so it's fine.
You're married to one, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm married to one. Yeah.
It's okay.
Actually,
She
the
won't- she's
Euro
not
Cup
listening.
final. Well, because I'm English background, she's Italian. So the Euro Cup final, Italy versus England. Italy won that one, but then England made the World Cup. So I don't know who won in the end, but
Who's happier? Everyone.
Yeah.
So what was the question? Why is it so popular? Or there is no question.
Oh, yeah, so,
You're
yeah,
just reading off
yeah,
statistics.
just kind of exploring like how it became so popular. So it was largely like more regional, like especially in Europe. Africa was popular as well, but for the longest time, the European clubs, they were just kind of really just be focused more on like their league. The Champions League was a thing, has been a thing for a long time. But what kind of really made it blow up was the English Premier League. So for the longest time, it was the English Championship, and that was the top tier in England. And in an agreement with Sky Sports, they made the Premier League, which was one tier higher. And Sky Sports had the media rights to essentially for that league, the broadcast rights to promote it. So to make good on that investment, they promoted it like crazy. And they made the English Premier League like the league in the world. It's a large reason why it is where it is. And the biggest team that spawned from that in that period of time was Manchester United. Still is one of the biggest clubs in the world.
Mhm.
And you had football stars like David Beckham, who was he hit the league at the right time.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a good football player, don't get me wrong, but his timing was perfect. It was impeccable because he was in his prime when that league started up. And between Manchester United, David Beckham, and just the English Premier League in general, it became this worldwide phenomenon. You had other clubs in other markets trying to compete with that. So they had to increase revenue or change ownerships or sold the clubs to other things. And then you had other big powerhouse clubs come up like PSG, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, just in order to compete with these clubs or just kind of maintain their own dominance in the Champions League, which is the case for Real Madrid. And then you saw like as a byproduct, you saw other clubs that couldn't compete financially, like Nottingham Forest, Ajax. They kind of weren't all that competitive in Champions League because they couldn't compete financially. And this kind of created the football culture and turned it more into like from a local thing and turned it into a global commodity, where you have you would have like supporter groups around the world. You would have like what you were talking about, Mike, with Tottenham, where you would have Jewish fans around the world gravitating towards that team or gravitating towards Ajax, and they would see that as their club, even though they never even been to England.
Globalization, right? That's what
globalization.
What Franklin Foer was talking about. I was gonna say, So to jump on that, or do you have something else to add to that?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say to jump on that. It made the World Cup extra cool because it's countries, right? So you would see your favorite players from your favorite club play for these countries. So it was like, oh, how are these guys are they gonna have chemistry? And especially if you come from one of those countries, you're like, yes, we're finally gathering our, this guy from Madrid and this guy from Manchester and this guy from whatever, from France. And they're playing for my country now. So it became, obviously the nationalism comes into play also, but it became this phenomenon, right? Brazil, they developed a reputation for creating these for a style of play that was more creative, less I guess structured, like in like in England or France, like all these mid-century, mid-19th century soccer cultures. They were very structured, and it was very formal, like you said. But Brazil said, you know what? We're athletic, we're creative. Let's incorporate that as part of the game, and we're going to show the world that we don't need financial resources. We just have talent, and we'll figure it out from there. So Brazil is like, it developed like a sentimental following. So someone from Turkey follows the Brazilian football team, the World Cup team, and then obviously the players get the respect when they get the money to sign those contracts for the big clubs, right? But yeah, that's some insight there.
Yeah, I mean, to add to what you just said, and I think that's one thing we didn't talk about in terms of what makes soccer very global. We mentioned, like, it has to do with it being very easy. You just need a ball. Another thing is it's simple. It's just kick a ball into a goal post, and that's it.
That's a good question.
You look at, like, I've been watching football, American football, for so long, rugby, and I don't get it. Like, I watch and I still need to explain, okay, this is what's happening. I kind of understand certain things, but soccer is so simple that, anybody can.
I get what you're saying. It's simple, but not simplistic, right? Like
right. It doesn't have too much rules.
Yeah. I mean, American football is easy. I mean, if they come out in a shotgun package, you line up in a nickel, so you have the same amount of cornerbacks as they have wide receivers, and then you do zone coverage. Easy.
Blitz.
I find, like, American football is so complicated. Like, now they have to bring in Katy Perry, like all these singers to come on stage to come and sing just to wake people up.
Man. No, I get what you're saying. Like, the basics of the game is are more simple in soccer. Just
right, which kind of also brings in that creativity aspect of it. Like, you look at Pele. Pele started playing soccer with, like, a socks ball. In Ghana, we have this thing where you take a bunch of socks, you just put them, and just eventually turn it into a ball, and you kick it. It has a different bounce because it's not as firm as a airfield rubber ball. So the way you play with it is different.
Yeah. And
most of the time you're playing bare feet.
Yep.
So it's much harder to play. But then once you're playing with an air-filled ball,
it's no problem.
Easier.
Yeah.
So you can literally, like, just control the ball in such a way that, it's like it's like training how to run in sand.
Yeah.
And then now running on flat, So you're now, like, much better at, like, controlling the ball than most people are. So a lot of the things that these guys will be doing is, like, full on creativity, like next level, flipping the ball, back kicking, and all this kind of stuff. So I mean, I think it brought in that kind of aspect of creativity, which it makes you watching the game even extra.
100%. It goes back to the accessibility point, like how it's poverty friendly, right? So I remember there's a story. There was, like, a bunch of English coaches who went to Brazil, and they were like, okay, what makes these guys so creative? What makes them so different from the rest of the world? Like, you have English kids playing on, like, these well-groomed fields, perfect grass, and then you got these Brazilian kids playing on the beaches of Rio, right? Have you ever run on the beach? It's terrible for you, but it really helps with your core, your balance. And so these kids they're not thinking about, their calf pain. They're just trying to figure out how to play soccer on a beach. In European countries, Eastern Europe, like my dad, he would tell me stories. He used to play with rocks with the local kids on pavement, and their goalposts would just be like their t-shirts on the ground, shirts and skins, whatever. And this is common around the world, right?
Yeah. Even in other sports too, like Dominicans in baseball.
Oh yeah.
They grew up, they would play with, like, a thin stick, and they would try to hit a rock. Right. So going from a thin stick to a baseball bat, and then from a rock It's,
Oh yeah,
No
massage your
problem.
thumb to a baseball.
It's
It's
easier.
like hitting a balloon. Yeah,
You're in
just
heaven
like
now.
yeah. No wonder why they're so good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, for me, learning how to play tennis, my cousin was a carpenter, so we would take like hard wood like slabs, and then he would like basically carve them into a tennis racket, and I would be playing tennis
Cool.
with it. So by the time I started playing with a physical tennis racket, the tennis racket was much, less heavier than the bat I was actually playing tennis with.
Interesting. You
Wow.
developed your feel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. You will develop strong forearms that way too. Should be good for
Yeah.
tennis. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, oh yeah, in terms of history, like where did soccer come from, or football, or balloon bead? So records go back more than 2,000 years to ancient China. That's the furthest back.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I was blown away.
I mean, like, to kick a ball around between two posts, I mean, it's not really, it's not like, someone's going to invent it sometime, like, fact that it's 2,000 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was like
I thought it was-
China.
Yeah.
British this whole time. They just exploded it.
Now, Greece, ancient Rome, Central America also claim to have started the sport. But again, it's like, because it's such a simple concept that there's probably several iterations in history where it's coming up. So they
Interesting.
probably did. But the oldest goes back to ancient China, at least from where I'm getting my information from. Which was not an extensive search. It's just I did what everybody did. First couple links on Google, that was about it. And
You flew to like Google.
yeah. So we did not go to China and do a full archaeological study of Chinese culture and do a couple digs in order to verify that it is actually from China. No, we just reference other information.
Google
Mhm.
on your phone.
Yeah. So
Okay.
where the sport becomes an English sport, like where England kind of really kind of takes ownership over it, is that they transitioned it into the game that we know today. They put the rules behind it, the grass, because British love their grass, and they kind of made football what we know today. So that's where the English kind of stake their claim to the sport, but they didn't invent it.
Right.
Yeah.
I find one amazing, interesting thing too is like, because of colonial rule and stuff, they also spreaded it to all their colonies.
Yes.
Yeah, and then everybody beat them.
Yeah,
Now they
that's
can't win.
The irony of colonialism.
I know. It's the same thing with cricket too. Like they can't win a cricket now.
Nope.
Like India and Pakistan always beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? I found out, even though like cricket went to India, football didn't go to India.
Right.
No, not really. They have a league there, but it's not. I mean, cricket is just like so
Just
dominant in that
dominates.
country.
Yeah. There's like
Yeah.
week-long cricket games or something like this. I'm not a cricket expert.
They
Maybe
love
even
their
longer,
cricket,
like
yeah.
a month-long game. I don't know. We need a cricket
I
expert.
couldn't know.
We need some research.
There's like
here.
3 different types.
Yeah.
There's like one that takes place within 3 hours. There's one that's like a week, and there's one that just goes on forever.
Crazy. Like they kill
Yeah.
referees if they make the bad call. It's intense there. Speaking of
Yeah.
hooliganism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting tying it back to England. England's interesting because they don't end up winning many World Cups anymore. Their last one was in the 60s,
No.
right? The whole bring it home
Yeah, they're
phenomenon.
I have it right here. So England, their last one, their only one was in 1966.
Wow. Well,
Oh,
yeah.
so the main reason for this, as the theory goes, is that their domestic league is so popular that they develop all these rivalries, right? So by the time the best British players, English players go on the national team, they hate each other because of their club rivalry mixed with the talent from other countries. They just can't get it together, and there's a lot of pressure in England for them to win, so they just crack under the
Yep.
pressure, right? But now, we'll get into this later when we give our non-expert predictions. But England they have a better team now. They have a coach, Gareth Southgate, who kind of is trying to put that behind them and is saying, hey, it's all a brotherhood. I know you guys have a rivalry going, but when you come here,
Yeah.
let's build a winner.
Yeah. Just bond over a good cup of Earl Grey.
There you go. If that's what
That's
modern day
like any
English
good
people
Brit
do.
would do. Yeah.
Get those pinkies up, folks.
They're supposed to put milk in it, according to British people. So
London Fog.
I can't drink tea with that's it. Yeah, I can't drink tea with milk in it. It's just not.
Are you drinking tea, Mike?
It's jasmine tea. I know.
Jasmine?
I think that's Indian.
Classic, Mike. Yeah.
It's antioxidants, man. You got to use big words like that to make yourself sound less wuss. I'm a modern male.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, and then I guess just other things in terms of like football that I don't know I've been finding interesting lately is Ted Lasso, great show.
Hey, that's a good show.
I think it's bringing football more to an American audience, that using great actors, great plot, really great plot.
Yep. Pokes
the
fun at
Emmys
the-
seem to think so. Yeah.
It pokes fun at the cultural differences, right? Football versus
Yeah.
soccer. Very apropos to this podcast.
Or they get demoted and then they're like, well, what's the league called? Oh, it's called the championship. Oh, it's not that bad. Yeah.
And like there's no such things as demotions in North American sports.
Yeah. And then there's Wrexham AFC, which is a 4th tier team, I think, in England. They were purchased by Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds. Because the club was going bankrupt, it would leave. They ended up buying it. There's actually a mini series around it, just kind of talking about what they're doing with the club. But yeah, it's kind of cool. They just kind of bought the club. It's like a 4th tier team. It's very opposite from like say Will Ferrell, who is part owner of like LAFC, who's just dominating MLS right now. So
yeah.
I mean, I like both. I'm okay with both actors and doing their thing, but yeah, it's just kind of interesting how they're just kind of going more for the lower tiers.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to what they do with it. But I guess on to the final, which is why everybody's here, which would be our predictions, the correct ones. We are all Canadians. Well, Canadians or landed Canadians. And so we're like Canada getting into the World Cup is a huge thing for us. We haven't been in the World Cup since the 80s.
Proud
the
moment.
Actual ride, very proud moment. The ride to get into the World Cup was incredible. I was fortunate enough to go to 2 out of 7 of the home games, part of the Octagon to get in. So that was,
Woohoo!
yeah.
I sat next to you.
And Mike and I were there. For when they clinched against Jamaica. Yeah, that was a game for sure. And then the game against Panama, you were there too, Mike. Yeah.
Yeah.
When
we didn't make much eye
Davies
contact.
just stripped that one Panamanian player of the ball, and it happened right in front of us too. Yep. Yeah.
We're like,
so
what is happening right now?
Yeah, that was an amazing goal. Best goal I've ever seen live, anyways.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool moment.
So yeah, Canada getting in was amazing, but our pool our group, is just stacked.
Yeah.
So yeah, go team.
Go Canada.
they'll put up a fighting chance. If they make it through, I think that's pretty much honestly, I think that's kind of what they have in them. But Belgium and Croatia is the other one. Yeah,
yep. And Morocco.
They're
Don't discount Morocco.
Yeah, and Morocco. Yeah,
that's the winnable game.
They won the African. Spot. So Africa's a tough category to come in from.
Yeah.
A lot of good teams. Like Nigeria, Cameroon, not Ghana, right?
Do you know what the highest ranked African team is? Ghana's actually ranked pretty decently.
Yeah, Ghana's actually really high. Yeah.
The highest ranked team is Senegal.
Senegal. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Their best player.
They're in the World Cup too.
It's from Bayern, Sadio Mane. He's a beast. One of my favorites. He's on. Used to be a Liverpool.
Yeah.
Star. Now he's on Bayern Munich. Anyway, Senegal's. They've got some weapons too. Koulibaly, I believe his name.
Yeah, they have
is.
good weapons. Yeah.
Stack team.
Um.
What were you gonna say, Kojo?
Yeah, I was gonna say if money wasn't an issue, I think there's gonna be a lot of great talent coming from the African team.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
It's an issue
sure.
every World Cup. But that's another interesting thing that we can talk about the World Cup teams, because it's countries. These guys, they get some like the winnings from tournament pots or whatnot, sponsorships. So there is some money in it, but there's not like the millions and millions that you get from your club team. You just do it because of it's your country, your country, right? So
Yeah.
obviously that affects Africa, who like there's not that many sponsorships coming in, economic situations, advertisements, and so these players constantly strike against their government bodies, like the team's governing bodies. And so it's always drama, and it sucks because there's a lot of talent coming out of Africa, but they can't get the finances together. There's corruption, terrible things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then another thing too that I also find with the African, I'm not an expert, so correct me if I'm wrong somewhere in the comments somewhere. But there's the overshadow of talent. So you'd see a lot of like Africans who support like Manchester, Chelsea, and they wouldn't go see local games. Like here in Toronto, we go see the TFCs and stuff, and we support the growth of the lower teams. Whilst the African, like you go see the Porcupines and the Hearts, and it's empty fields. And I mean, I think currently things have changed a bit, but the support is not there enough. Like they rather support Manchester than local teams. So
it could be
they're not able to,
like TV
to get into,
like TV's a lot cheaper to than
right.
Like
the packages of selling TVs is supposed to go into the game,
streaming it, illegally streaming it.
Oh yeah,
streaming.
Yeah. Legally, we only promote legal stuff.
Yeah, it's just a thing that happens that we totally don't do.
We're completely unaware of how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of this illegal streaming.
But
what
to
is
go back,
pirating?
to go back to that, I wonder if these Ghanaian kids or African kids, like they know, it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Kojo. They know the only way out is to get that contract for Manchester City or Liverpool. Right. And so that's the team you cheer because that's the dream, right? Whereas there's no money for the Porcupines, or maybe there is, but it's not some lucrative European contract, right? So there's no incentive to grow the game at the grassroots level locally, other than maybe to create future Ghanaian stars, right? Which is actually pretty important.
Yeah, because a lot of talent does come out from Africa, but how much talent is being missed by not having a lot? That's the right answer. A lot's being missed. Okay, so before we get into our predictions, what teams are you watching? Obviously Canada, and obviously Ghana for you, Kojo.
World Cup or club?
World Cup.
World Cup. Yeah, since it's around the corner.
Too, yeah.
Nah, let's do World Cup.
It's gonna be tough.
See. I think I'm gonna watch most of the games because I'm a nerd. Like I'm gonna look up the TV schedules. I'll probably be at work for most of the games, so if my boss is listening, I apologize. Yeah. It's in the background. If I'm in the meeting
during
when I'm not busy
time, we are watching these games. We are not watching them while we are working. We do not have a second screen.
I'll definitely watch the favorites. So you got the Brazils, England's, France, Spain, Netherlands, Canada, of course, has my heart. So, my answer is not original, but I'll try to catch as many games as I can. Yeah, that's really my answer.
Could be Ronaldo and Messi's last World Cup.
Yeah, they're in their mid to late 30s, right? They're fathered.
These guys are gods.
Literally.
Yeah. People worship these guys.
But unfortunately, father time waits for no man. So maybe their last one.
and they're young talents
Yeah.
in the pool right
Yes.
now, like really young talent with fresh blood.
Yep, they're on.
Mind you, if you look at Ronaldo,
Yeah.
it's like he's 39.
Yeah,
Doesn't look 39.
it's like how?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
beast.
the guy's he takes care of his body, that's for sure.
I
They're
mean,
virtuosos.
yeah, like
Yep. Yeah.
sometimes I even question a lot of the African players because some of the guys look way older than their age.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, how did you get on this team?
I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I just look at some of the players and I'm like, I don't think you're 18. You don't look 18.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Like for me, I guess like as a Canadian, obviously that's my main one. I guess as English background, that's usually where I go. That's who I cheer for. But same answer as Mike. Just kind of, I'd like to watch at least see a game from every team. Just kind of see what they're doing, get the full experience as a fan.
Yep. And you could be a full expert
Yeah.
by the time the round robin comes around.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. ESPN will be calling me up for comment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, I think the sports is one of those things that I enjoy watching with other people, not by myself.
Okay.
So whatever, like, say if I'm around friends, whatever is on the show, I mean on TV at that moment, I think that's what I'm doing.
We got to get together for one of
Nice.
the games. Maybe
For sure,
Canada,
we have
or
to.
if we
Yeah,
can't,
we have
we'll
to.
try to. Well, maybe we could catch Ghana.
Yeah, we have to do a must
We need at least
Watch.
one game, guys.
show.
That's the
like,
goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We'll do a watch party.
Friday.
Yes.
Put it in your calendar.
Shout out our friend Friday.
You just said call them out. He's listening to
Just
this.
call
Like,
him out.
oh, okay.
That's me. We have fun.
Oh,
here.
and our friend Bill too. Bill and Fadi.
For the homies, Bill and Fadi.
Yeah. Yeah, just you two. This is like totally an inside joke. So I guess for me we already said we were gonna watch. So who's your pick? Who's your pick to win?
Pick to
I
win.
go first. So
yeah, go for it.
I look at if you look at like previous winners, so Germany, France, and Spain, specifically Germany and Spain, a lot of the players on the team, so Spain, for example, were from Real Madrid, Barcelona. There was like one player who did not play in La Liga for that year, which was Cesc Fabregas, who was just on another level. So the Spanish team, they were playing a Spanish system, a Spanish style of soccer. So they're all playing the same system. Then you had Germany. A lot of those players are coming from Dortmund, and the majority of them from Bayern Munich. And they were playing a similar system of football. And you look at France, a lot of players playing a similar system of football coming from Ligue 1 or have roots in Ligue 1. So the reason why my pick is the way that it is because looking at this team, they have quality talent and they're having players who are playing at a high level and playing a very similar style of football. And so my pick is actually England for that reason, because I think that they have been demonstrating over the last couple tournaments that they are playing very well. They have all the key pieces from keeper, defense, midfield, forward, and they're all playing a similar style of football.
Okay, so you think it's coming home? That's the the colloquialism for
definitely biased.
Yeah, you're not biased at all, right?
No, not
they
at
have
all.
A good chance, that's
completely
for sure.
impartial opinion.
I'm gonna go with, and this is, I don't know if this is a popular answer, but I think the defending champion France will pull it out again, simply because most of their team from the 2018 World Cup is coming back, and they have arguably the best player in the world in Kylian Mbappe. So I think chemistry, experience, just overall talent, like they're stacked. The only thing that can get in their way, in my opinion, is just that they've already done it. So are they just as motivated to do it again? Like they say that winning your second championship is harder than winning your first, because now you're the hunted, not the hunter. So that's my pick. Backup pick is Brazil. I'm going to cheat. Brazil has had so they've had a few teams that like it's been a transition with their young guys. They got embarrassed 2 World Cups ago to Germany. If you guys remember that, in Brazil, it was like a national tragedy. Like grown men were crying on the streets of Brazil. But now those young kids are a bit older, and they have a lot of talent as well. As Brazil usually has loads of talent, and they have that experience too. So they're a threat for sure.
But how could Brazil win if Neymar is always rolling around on the grass? Like
tactics.
Honestly,
It's part of the tactics. Mind game.
Part of the game.
That's interesting. It's just not to change topics, but very quickly. When I was younger, so this part of the game where there's mind games. It's called shithousing in soccer, in fan culture. So this shithousing aspect would drive me crazy as a young kid. But now, following Canada's journey, like Canada had the reputation of being like, Canada, right? We're apologetic, we're friendly, all that good stuff. But they never competed with the CONCACAF teams, that's their division, to qualify for the World Cup. They could never match their, we'll call it shithousing. But this time they adopted that part of the game, and they weren't backing down. So yes, you have to do the shady stuff, but they were pretty good at it, and they won. So I guess I'm appreciating it more. I hate myself for it, but it is what it is. Right?
Yeah, it's part of soccer. I think they should really try to clean up. Like if you're rolling around and claiming your ankle's broken, maybe you should
red card.
Yeah, like sub somebody out. Like that's the way they should do it, because you would clean or stop the clock at the very least. Just stop the clock, because half the time it's just a waste time on the clock.
Do you guys
know
just
stop the clock? Yeah.
Comedian. They had their own show. Great comedy skit show, but they do this one skit where the soccer player gets tackled, and he's trying to draw the foul. It wasn't a hard hit, but he's just rolling on the ground and he's exaggerating it. So you see him like in his head, he's going to heaven to exaggerate the call because he's dead. And then the referee pulls out the red card and he comes down from heaven and just goes to kick the ball in. It's on YouTube, but it's just they just play.
Oh yeah. Anyways, what's your pick, Kojo?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I think I want to root for an unknown, like underdog team to win. Or if not that, like an African nation should win this time.
The African.
Yeah.
I think it would be great for the continent.
There's never been an African team that has won, so we're waiting for the first one. The favorite, the highest ranked one is, as I said earlier, Senegal. I guess we can transition.
Senegal's in a good group too.
They're in a tough group, but I guess we can transition to dark horses. My dark horse is Senegal. I love the African teams. They're always like sentimental favorites. They're fun to watch. They're athletic. They're underdogs. But as far as a dark horse to win, come on, Senegal.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's like Belgium, Denmark. I don't know. They have good teams, and a lot of clubs don't put as much preparation into playing them, but they should, because they have quality talent.
A lot of pressure on Belgium.
Croatia proved that a couple times. Yeah, a lot of pressure on Belgium.
Their golden generation's getting older. Belgium's interesting as a soccer culture, because they're not very nationalistic, for like a little bit of Belgium context. So there's forget the types of ethnicities in Belgium. The
Flemish, Dutch, and French.
There you go.
Yeah, the way they see themselves is that we're not Dutch, we're not French, we're not German, we're Belgian.
Right.
They're not the other ones. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how Belgian identity is like, you're not these groups, you're Belgian.
There you go.
Yeah. But cycling culture is really huge in Belgium. So they love their sports, and their football league is very big as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bruges, Genk. Yeah.
But well articulated, Alex. But yeah, so part of being Belgian, I guess, is not like being too nationalistic. It's just, we have our ethnicities and yeah, we're Belgian, but like don't wave the flag too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I was doing some ancestry for myself, and I'm 16 generations ago. There was a Belgian great grandmother. So yeah, I guess I have the right to.
Wow, it goes
Sure.
that
Flemish
far?
or which
Europeans keep really good records.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Which one of
Yeah.
the Belgian ethnicities were you? Or was it a mix?
I don't know.
You didn't do that much genealogy. Deep
I didn't go
dive.
that deep into it. Yeah.
Okay. We'll get you one of those
So,
DNA tests. That's a
yeah.
different topic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, dark horses for you. Oh, you already said it. Never mind. The T's wearing off.
Kojo, what's your who's your dark horse?
Oof.
I guess it'd be the African clubs, really. You could double up on Africa.
You could take my answer.
No, take
I don't
mine.
know. I'll take Mike's
Sweet.
answer.
Oh wow. Okay. Jeez.
I don't want
Ghana.
to.
Just rep Ghana. Go all out.
Yeah, just double down on Ghana. Yeah.
You got to do it.
Yeah.
If your family's listening to this, they'll be proud.
Oh, they don't probably care.
They're like, "What's this man doing?"
Wait, they don't care about football, or they don't care about?
No.
What?
About my answer.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
About my answer. I remember as a kid, I would wake up, like, a lot of the games were played like,
Mhm.
odd hours, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I'll wake everyone up, and then go back to sleep.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
I like it.
Wake up! The game's starting in 2 minutes, and everyone wakes up, and then I go to sleep.
On that note,
One thing I wonder, how is the fan base culture going to be? Like, how soccer is like, it's not just the game playing, but there's all these other things like cheering, drinking,
mhm.
all that stuff. Would they allow drinking?
Right, because of the
Oh,
Middle
yeah,
Eastern
that's
aspect of
interesting.
things. I think so. They announced
Yeah.
this. I think they're going to allow drinks for non-Qatari fans.
What?
So like the local population cannot drink. Nor do I think they want to, because I guess that's their culture. So the ones that want to can disguise themselves as I'm French.
Like, yeah, I'm German.
Bonjour.
He just shows up wearing lederhosen. Yeah, I'm German.
Anyway.
I would like your finest lager, please.
So first, it's pronounced Laguerre. No.
Like, yeah.
Really not. First game is November 20th at 11 a.m. Between Qatar kicking it off, the host country, versus Ecuador.
Like in other cultures, I'm 100% probably sure Europeans do this too, where they probably wouldn't, the whole city
Oh,
just
yeah.
shuts down. Like,
Siesta
no one
style,
goes
man.
Probably.
So
Yeah.
for those that don't know, a siesta. I was just in Italy recently, so the whole town shuts down around like 3:30, and they take a nap.
to go to
They take a
sleep.
nap.
Yeah, they do. Everything closes.
And
Yeah.
it's part of European culture. Spain, I think France does it. Not sure about England.
We did that too.
Greece.
We would go out.
We did that?
Yeah, it's a good travel hack. Episode coming soon. Don't
Travel
worry.
hacks. Hey.
Keep an eye. Yeah, travel hacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's we would go out early, do the things that we want to see when there's no crowds, because it's like 8 a.m. and then you kind of like do your thing, and then you have lunch, and then you go back to the hotel, chill when it's like the hottest time of the day, and then you go out in the evening and you just kind of see all the stuff that you're okay if there's a crowd there. You just kind of like check out a park or have a nice dinner or whatever. Yeah.
Mm.
I wonder what happens if you oversleep. Like, say you're at work, you go take a nap. and then you
Extended
oversleep.
siestas.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows?
Alarms, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Or just all those pings from Slack will probably wake you up.
Oh, man. On that note, final thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, final thoughts.
Who wants to go first?
So for my final thoughts about soccer, football, balloon pied.
Ballon pied.
Is that ballon pied? My French is horrible. I'm not that kind of Canadian. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, balloon pied.
Ballon pied? No. Ballon pied.
No.
Soccer.
Okay. Soccer. Yeah. So it's a world sport for a reason, because it's more than what takes place on the pitch. It's what takes place around the pitch and leading into the game and after the game. It's that sense of community that draws people to it at a local level. And when you see your local area being repped, it kind of gives you that sense of pride. When you see your flag at the World Cup, it gives you that sense of pride. And like all sports, that's what it is. But I think soccer, football, calcio is more true to that, because it just kind of takes it just one level further, because it is so localized. And anybody can do it. Anybody can play it. And I think that's why it's so popular. And that's why it is a world sport.
I would say it's a lesson for us to learn that we're all the same, and there's so much stuff that we use to differentiate ourselves, but that's not it. Like, we're very much alike, and soccer is one of the symbols that brings people together. And if we can learn that lesson, as you know, when you put a group of people in one place and they share the same, like, you know how your feelings change when you're around other people, because you're all experiencing the same thing, and it makes you happy and proud of your country and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a really good lesson that we can learn from this great game of sports, as we're all the same. And
I like that. I'll kind of piggyback on that. So I've been thinking about this for a while. So final thought, there's a fine line between fanaticism and insanity, right? Like if I'm that passionate about something, where's the line? Do I join a gang to represent the thing that I'm passionate about, and that gang represents, my insanity for that thing? Or is it just passion? I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
You join the gang. Yeah.
If I'm fanatical about The Simpsons, where's the insanity point? Do I record every episode? There's like 30 seasons of The Simpsons. But to wrap this up, I would say let's embrace our humanity when it comes to passion, right? Keep a level head. And same goes for the World Cup, right? It's okay if you lose.
No, it's not. Yeah.
So on that note, follow us on the social medias, and remember, kids, this goes to Alex's point, as the famous Ronaldo, not Portuguese Ronaldo, but Brazilian Ronaldo, as the famous quote of his says, "We lost because we didn't win." Peace out.
Yeah, that's literally true. Like, yeah, obviously.
Profound, Ronaldo. Profound. That's why he's a legend.
Yeah. It's not because of what he did on the field.
His quotes.
It's because of he's a brilliant man.
All right.